The training mat smelled like fear and disinfectant. Instructor Vexthor stood at the edge of the combat circle, his four arms crossed in perfect symmetry. Around him, 200 cadets from 17 different species watched in silence. This was the Galactic Defense Academy. The best of the best. Warriors who would one day command fleets and protect entire systems. And today, they would learn what real combat looked like. Attention! Vexthor's voice cracked through the gymnasium like a whip. Today, we begin practical combat training. You have studied theory. You have learned forms. You have passed your physical examinations. Now you will face an opponent who has completed this same program. A ripple of excitement moved through the crowd. Cadets straightened. Claws flexed. Breathing appendages flared. Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. Your opponent is from Earth. A Deathworlder. She has been training with us for 6 standard months. She has requested and received permission to serve as your combat demonstration partner. Laughter erupted from the Krynn section. Their species stood nearly 3 meters tall, with exoskeletons that could deflect plasma rounds. One of them, Durek, stepped forward with a grin that showed too many teeth. A human. Durek's voice boomed. One of those soft pink things? Instructor, with respect, this is an insult. We came here to learn combat, not to babysit primitives. More laughter. Even some of the smaller species joined in. Everyone knew about humans. Recent additions to the galactic community. Weak gravity worlders who somehow survived on a planet that should have killed them. No natural weapons. No armor. No venom. Just meat and bone and delusion. Vexthor said nothing. He gestured toward the far entrance. She walked in like she owned the room. Not tall. 1.7 meters. Her hair was pulled back in a tight braid, the color of burnt copper. Her uniform was standard issue, but somehow it looked different on her. Like she had already been through a war. Her eyes swept the crowd with a kind of assessment that made several cadets shift uncomfortably. This is Sergeant Maya Torres, Vexthor announced. She will be your opponent for today's demonstration. Who volunteers first? Durek was already moving. I will end this quickly, Instructor. Out of mercy. Maya looked at him. Just looked. Her expression never changed. You sure about that? A human who speaks. Durek spread his arms wide, playing to the crowd. Tell me, little human, do you know what my species does to Deathworlders who forget their place? You talk about it, apparently. Maya stepped onto the mat. You coming or not? The crowd pressed closer. This would be entertaining at least. Watching the human get put in her place before the real training began. Durek was not just large. He was a champion fighter in his world's traditional combat sport. His exoskeleton had taken rounds from military-grade weapons without cracking. And humans broke so easily. Vexthor raised one hand. Standard Academy rules. Fight until submission, incapacitation, or instructor intervention. Begin. Durek charged. He was fast for his size, closing the distance in 3 massive strides. His fist came down in an overhead smash that would have pulverized stone. It hit the mat so hard that the impact resonated through the floor. Maya was not there. She had moved. Not quickly, not desperately. Just moved. Like she knew exactly where he would strike before he did it. Durek spun, swinging his second fist in a wide arc meant to catch her wherever she had dodged. She ducked under it, stepped inside his guard, and drove her knee into the weak point where his leg segment joined his body. The crack was audible. Durek stumbled. Impossible. That joint was reinforced. Humans did not hit hard enough to damage Krynn's anatomy. First rule of fighting, Maya said, circling him now. Strength does not matter if you cannot land a hit. Rage replaced surprise in Durek's eyes. He came at her again, this time using all 4 arms in a combination attack that should have been impossible to avoid in close quarters. Strike high, strike low, grab, crush. Maya moved through the attacks like water. She did not block. She redirected. When his left arm came at her face, she guided it past with minimal contact. When he tried to grab her shoulder, she was already spinning away. And every time he overextended, she punished him for it. A palm strike to his breathing spiracles. An elbow to the nerve cluster under his arm. A calculated stomp on his already damaged leg joint. The crowd had stopped laughing. Derek was breathing hard now, his exoskeleton showing hairline fractures where she had struck the same spots repeatedly. You fight like a coward. Stand and face me. I am facing you. Maya's voice was calm, almost gentle. You are just too slow to notice. He roared and lunged with everything he had. A final desperate attempt to use his mass and strength to overwhelm her through sheer force. Maya dropped low, grabbed his leading arm, and used his own momentum against him. The throw was textbook perfect. Derek went airborne, inverted, and came down on the mat hard enough to crack the reinforced flooring. She was on him before he could recover. One knee on his chest, one hand controlling his primary arm, the other poised over his throat. Yield, she said quietly. Derek stared up at her. In his eyes, the rage was gone, replaced by something the other cadets recognized all too well. Fear. I yield. Maya released him immediately and stepped back. Offered her hand. After a long moment, Derek took it and let her help him up. He limped off the mat without looking at anyone. Vexthor's mandibles clicked rapidly. Next. For a moment, no one moved. Then a Celeran stepped forward. Their species was known for speed and precision. Surely, what worked against a slow brute would not work against a trained striker. It took Maya 40 seconds to put her on the mat. A Horthax volunteered next. They relied on reach and leverage. Maya destroyed his balance so completely that he could not even stand properly by the end. One by one, they came. One by one, she beat them. Not brutally. Not with unnecessary force. But with a precision and understanding of combat that made it clear she was operating on a completely different level. By the time she had gone through 15 opponents, the crowd was silent. Vexthor stepped onto the mat. Enough. You have seen the demonstration. Sergeant Torres, you may rest. Maya nodded and moved to the side of the mat. She was not even breathing hard. What you have witnessed, Vexthor continued, addressing the stunned cadets, is the result of training on a death world. Sergeant Torres grew up on Earth. A planet where everything, including other humans, is trying to kill you. She learned to fight before she learned to read. Not because she wanted to. Because she had to. Q. He gestured at the mat. You come from civilized worlds. Your species evolved intelligence to avoid conflict. You learned combat as a skill, a sport, an art. Humans learned it as survival. They feel pain and keep fighting. They get injured and adapt. They lose and come back stronger. This is what a Deathworlder brings to combat. One of the cadets, a young Thasian named Krynn, raised a tentacle hesitantly. Instructor, if humans are this dangerous, why are they allowed in the academy? Why are they allowed in the coalition at all? Vexthor's expression was unreadable. Because they are on our side. And you should pray to whatever gods you believe in that they stay that way. Maya was standing at the water station, drinking slowly, when 3 Krynn approached her. Derek was not with them. These were his squadmates. Larger than him. Meaner looking. The leader, a scarred veteran named Thakron, smiled down at her. You embarrassed our brother today, human. That requires an answer. Maya set down her water. He volunteered. He lost. That is how training works. Training has rules. But accidents happen all the time in combat drills. Thakron cracked his knuckles. All 12 of them. Meet us at the auxiliary gym. Tonight. 2000 hours. We will see how you fight when the instructors are not watching. He leaned in close. And if you do not show, we will find you anyway. You are alone here, Deathworlder. No one will help you. No one will even care. Maya looked at each of them in turn. Her expression never changed. 2000 hours. Auxiliary gym. I will be there. Smart human. Thakron turned to leave, then paused. Bring friends if you want. It will not matter. They walked away laughing. Maya stood there for a long moment. Then she pulled out her comm unit and made a call. Hey, IITS Maya. I need a favor. Can you get to the academy by tonight? A pause. No, I am fine. I need you to record something for me. Another pause. Then a small, cold smile crossed her face. Because I want proof of what happens when you corner a human. The auxiliary gym was old. Built before the academy had expanded, before the coalition had money for proper facilities. The lighting was dim. The walls were bare. The training mats were stained with old blood from a dozen different species. Perfect. Maya arrived at exactly 2000 hours. She wore the same uniform from earlier. No weapons. No armor. Just herself. And a small recording drone that floated silently near the ceiling. Thakron and his 2 companions were waiting. But they were not alone. 7 more Krynn had joined them. 10 total. Each one ace-trained combat specialist. Each one was curious about what had happened to their kind today. You actually came. Thakron sounded almost disappointed. Stupid human. You could have run. You could have reported us. Instead, you walked into an execution. Maya looked at them. All 10. Assessed. Calculated. You think there are enough of you? The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Enough. Thakron laughed, but it sounded forced. Human, we are going to break every bone in your body. Slowly. And then we are going to make sure you never walk properly again. Your kind needs to learn. There are rules in civilized space. And one of them is that Deathworlders do not embarrass their betters. Civilized. Maya rolled her shoulders, loosening up. That is a funny word coming from someone who organized an ambush because his friend lost a fair fight. Fair. One of the others stepped forward. There is nothing fair about you people. You come from a nightmare world and act lost if you belong here. You take positions that should go to real species. You spread your poison and call it culture. You need to be reminded of your place. Maya was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was different. Colder. You know what the really funny thing is? I actually tried to go easy on Durek today. I pulled my strikes. I gave him openings. I let him feel like he had a chance. Because I thought, maybe if I do not humiliate him too badly, we can all just move forward. She started walking toward them. Slowly. But you people do not want to move forward. You want to hurt someone weaker than you to feel strong again. So let me tell you how this is going to work. The Krynn tensed. Ready. You are going to come at me. All of you. At the same time. And I am going to put every single one of you in a medical pod. Her smile was terrifying. And when you wake up, you are going to remember this moment. The moment you learned that humans do not go easy when you threaten them. Thakron snarled. Kill her. They rushed her as a group. Coordinated. Professional. Using their numbers and size to create a wall of armored fury that should have crushed any opponent. Maya went low. Her first strike shattered the lead Krynn's kneecap with a sickening crunch. As he fell, she used him as a springboard, launching herself into the second attacker and driving her elbow into his throat with enough force to collapse his breathing passage. She landed, rolled, and came up inside the guard of a third, her fingers finding pressure points that sent his entire left side into spasms. It was not like the demonstration. This was not controlled. This was not restrained. This was what happened when you tried to kill a human. She moved through them like a storm. Every strike was calculated for maximum damage. Joints shattered. Nerve clusters were destroyed. Breathing spiracles were crushed. She used their size against them, their strength against them, their numbers against them. When one tried to grab her from behind, she dropped her weight, broke his grip, and drove her head backward into his face hard enough to crack his exoskeleton. When 2 tried to corner her, she went through the wall between them, literally punching through the weak point in one's armor and using the momentum to clothesline the other. The recording drone captured everything. Thakron watched his squad fall one by one. Watched this small human dismantle trained warriors with a precision that spoke of thousands of hours of experience. Hours spent fighting for her life. Hours spent learning that hesitation meant death. He charged her with a roar. His strongest attack. His killing blow. Maya sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and broke it in 3 places before he even realized what had happened. He screamed. She swept his legs, put him on the ground, and looked down at him with eyes that held no mercy. You wanted to know what a Deathworlder is really capable of? Her voice was soft, deadly. This is me holding back. This is me following the rules. This is me giving you a chance to survive. She leaned closer. If you ever threaten me again, I will show you what happens when I do not. She stood, looked at the other Krynn. Most were unconscious. The ones still awake were too injured to move. The recording of this goes to the instructors in the morning, along with the security footage showing that you threatened me first. You will be expelled. You will be dishonored. And you will spend the rest of your lives knowing that you were beaten by a human. She turned to leave. Stopped. Oh, and Thakron? Durek earned my respect today. He fought hard. He learned. He yielded with honor. You? You are just a bully who got what was coming. The next morning, the entire academy knew what had happened. The Krynn involved were expelled within hours. The footage went viral across the coalition network. A human. Alone. Against 10 trained warriors. And she had won so completely that it looked choreographed. Except it was not. Maya sat in the cafeteria, eating breakfast, when Durek approached. He moved slowly, still healing from yesterday's demonstration. Behind him were dozens of other cadets. Different species. Different backgrounds. United in one thing. Curiosity mixed with fear. Durek sat down across from her. Sergeant Torres. I need to apologize. Maya looked up. For what? For underestimating you. For mocking your people. For being a fool. He gestured at his injuries. You could have hurt me much worse yesterday. I know that now. You showed restraint. Showed mercy. And still I, my people, treated you like an enemy. You are not your people. Maya took another bite of her food. You are just you. And yesterday you learned something. That is all combat training is supposed to be. Learning. What was it like? The question came from a small Decien cadet who had been listening. Growing up on Earth. Training the way you did. Maya was quiet for a moment. It was hard. Humans fight each other constantly. For resources. For territory. For ideology. For no reason at all. I grew up in a place where violence was common. Where you learned to fight, or you did not survive. The training I received was not in a fancy academy. It was in streets and warehouses and back alleys. Against people who wanted to hurt me. Really hurt me. She looked around at the assembled cadets. You asked why humans are dangerous. It is not because we are stronger or faster. It is because we never stop. You hit us, and we keep coming. You hurt us, and we adapt. You threaten us, and we become the threat. Earth made us that way. Forged us in fire and blood and suffering. And now we are here. Among you. Fighting beside you. Durek nodded slowly. I am glad you are on our side. So am I. Maya smiled. Genuine this time. Because if we were not, this galaxy would have a very different kind of problem. Vexthor watched from across the cafeteria. Watched the human surrounded by cadets who had feared her yesterday and now hung on her every word. Watched them learn. Watched them grow. His second-in-command leaned close. Do you think it was wise to bring her here? Letting the cadets see what Deathworlders are really capable of. Vexthor's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. It was necessary. These cadets will command ships. Lead soldiers. Make decisions that affect billions of lives. They needed to understand what humanity brings to the coalition. Not the propaganda. Not the statistics. The reality. And what reality is that? That humans are the weapon you never want pointed at you. That they are survivors who turn survival into an art form. That they will die before they quit, and they will take you with them. He paused. And that we are extraordinarily lucky they chose to join us instead of conquer us. The second-in-command was silent for a moment. Do you really think they could have conquered us? Vexthor looked at Maya. At the scars she carried. At the calm in her eyes that came from seeing death and walking away. I think if humanity had emerged into the galaxy with conquest in mind instead of cooperation, we would not be having this conversation. I think we would all be dead or enslaved. And I think the only reason we are not is that humans decided they wanted friends more than enemies. That is a terrifying thought. Yes. Vexthor's voice was soft. Yes, it is. Across the academy, in a locked archive accessible only to senior command, a new file was created. Classification level, maximum. Title, Human Combat Assessment, Real-world application. The file contained the recordings from both fights, the demonstration, the ambush, and a detailed analysis of every move Maya had made, every technique, every adaptation, every decision. At the bottom, in Vex Thor's own writing, was a single recommendation. Recommend immediate expansion of the Human Integration Program. Recommend cross-training of all combat personnel with human instructors. Recommend psychological preparation for Allied forces regarding human combat capabilities. They are not what we thought. They are so much more. And if war comes, I want them leading from the front. Because where humans go, victory follows. Or death. And either way, the enemy learns to fear the name of Earth. Maya finished her breakfast. Stood. Smiled at the cadets still watching her. See you all in training. And remember, what you saw yesterday. That was just the beginning. You want to be warriors? Real warriors? Then you need to learn what Earth teaches. That fighting is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about being the one still standing when everything else has fallen apart. She walked away. Behind her, 200 cadets sat in silence. Processing. Learning. Understanding. The human training mat was no longer a place of mockery. It was a place of respect. Of fear. Of reluctant admiration. Because now they knew. Now they all knew. Humans did not fight like civilized species. They fought as Earth had taught them. With brutality and grace. With mercy and mercilessness. With an understanding of violence that came from 10,000 years of warfare against themselves and everything else their nightmare world could throw at them. And in the coming war, when the coalition faced enemies that outnumbered them, outgunned them, and wanted them extinct, it would be humans like Maya who stood between civilization and extinction. Not because they were asked to, but because that is what Deathworlders do. They survive. They adapt. They win. And they never, ever quit. Subscribe and like to my channel for more HFY sci-fi stories.